But if you're gone today, you got nothing else that you can do. What have you regretted not doing?
Yeah, welcome everyone to another episode of Creative Haven. I'm here with my awesome, talented friend, Cameron Brown. He is someone that I met at the Summit Series last year in 2019, and we just really hit it off. We were inside of this bonding circle. I believe we were doing several types of movements with partners to really break the ice and just get much more comfortable in the situation. And I guess we met in the circle during that time, and it
We
was really
did.
cool because during the whole time we of this festival or the series or the conference is that we kept bumping into each other, and it was really cool to actually see you all around there. And so I can tell that we had the same vibe and learn more about you. And so I've seen a lot of your work online, and I've been seeing a lot of your posts, and it's really impressive. And so before I get into it, I'd love for you to kind of tell people more about you, and also what's a moment in your life that you are the most proud of?
Nice. I like that question. So, yeah, for me, I run a company with a mission to create and inspire change in the world. It's done through three main verticals, through speaking, coaching, and music. And they intertwine in some pretty beautiful ways. I give keynotes around the world with a grand piano on stage. I coach CEOs and executives of mid to large sized organizations and have been doing that for about 10 years now. And then when it comes to the music side, is I've been writing for about 20 years now and have hundreds of songs written about the whole human experience, the ups, the downs, things about the world, and then utilize those songs in the talks that I deliver. From there, it is music videos. So we've taken a grand piano out to some pretty crazy locations in different parts of the world. Last year was southern Spain, so we took a grand piano out to a number of different locations, and looking forward to the next ones coming up as well.
Man, it's
In
incredible.
and then in terms of proud of, man, one that's fresh in my mind is I'm an uncle to three really young kids, and they are just remarkable little humans. They're back in Australia, and I get somewhere between 1 and 2 months each year. And last year, I I theme my years every year, and last year was the year of depth.
Mm.
And going back there last year, at the end of the year and over the holiday period, I I committed to being and living even deeper. Even though I am there and I'm present, it
Mm.
just went to another level, and we had remarkable experience. While it's fresh in my mind, I just released an official music video for one of my songs about unlocking creativity, and I'm currently
Nice.
editing a family version. So with all footage from all the stuff that we did together back in Outback Australia, and so it's fresh in my mind, and I'm super proud of me being, so I'm looking back at these moments going, we really lived and made the absolute most out of the time that we have. And it is
Mm.
limited time that I have every year with them. When I go back there next time, they're going to be different humans. Yeah, they're going to
Mm.
be nearly a year older, and there's going to be new experiences, which is amazing. But I love that we made the most of the time that we have. So I'd say most proud of that.
Oh, I love that answer because I've been actually speaking with a few other creatives too, and we always go back to the idea of when we were kids and how being kids, we never thought about what other people thought about us. We always just did things out of instinct, and we also created out of instinct. We would just draw on a piece of paper, not worry about what the teacher thought. We just did it out of pure creativity and love and passion. And so I've always wanted to know, actually, like reading a lot about what you've done, your history with piano. Was it something that you learned as a child, or was it something you picked up when you were a little bit older?
Yeah, I did. So year three in school till about year eight. So I think that's from about 8 years old through
Hmm.
until about 13. I learned like lessons, reading music, and I loved it for those 5 years. And then there was something that happened with one of the kids at school that led me to believe that it wasn't cool to learn. And it was only a small moment, but isn't it? It's amazing how these small moments can, uh, from an external source, can lead us to make changes that might not be actually in alignment with what we really want. It led me to go, right, it's not cool to learn the kind of music that I was learning. I stopped, I gave up. Now I wasn't, to go with that as well, I wasn't really enjoying the reading of music. I found even earlier on, when I was reading the music, I knew the song already, and I felt like I could hear it in my head before I could read the music, and that just tended to be the way that I could interpret things. And then I ended up stopping for 2 entire years, and it was only maybe 2 or 3 years ago that I realized that the correlation between when I gave up music for those 2 years and the 2 years that were two of the toughest years of my life. I was depressed. I didn't feel like I fitted in anywhere. I felt, I was suicidal. It was a really tough time. And those 2 times lined up. And I thought, oh, this makes so much sense. Because what I was trying to do, I was trying to fit into somebody else's definition of what cool looked like, what success looked like, what happiness looked like, what fulfillment looked like, rather than being my own self. And in the process of trying to fit into somebody else's definition of that, I lost myself. And I think that happens a lot with people. And I fortunately came back to creating music again. I remember walking past the piano one day and looking at it and going, oh, maybe I'll give that another go. And I remember I just sat down and started playing. No music, no nothing, just playing. And soon after that, I wrote my first song of my own. I started reading. I have no idea how to read music anymore. I just listen and I hear whatever is flowing through me, and I just play it. And then it grows and evolves. But coming back to that and writing my own music and allowing whatever to flow through me, and that's been, it's nearly 20 years of writing music now, and hundreds of songs, and I continue to find ways to be even more of myself and know what I want to experience, know what the mission is that I have, the purpose is that I have, and then how can I utilize my talents and strengths to be in alignment with that which makes me fulfilled, but also makes an impact in the world. And that's been a recipe for not only some great success in business and in my personal life, but happiness and fulfillment, and being able to utilize that creativity in a really inspiring way.
God, I love hearing that story, because there are so many people out there that have actually healed themselves through music, through artistry, through creativity, because of the simple fact that when you are creative, you are in a way getting into a flow state, or getting into a state where you're fully present. And sometimes it is a healing, I would say, situation where you are just being fully present, and you are technically healing yourself because you're not thinking about certain things that are happening in your body, that's happening in your life. You're de-stressing and you're being in the present moment. And I love that you created this business out of it. If anything, you've created this career out of inspiring people through your creativity while being creative. There are a lot of people out there who just coach on it, but you actually play the piano on stage while you're inspiring people. So I would love to know, how did you come up with the idea of, okay, I'm going to be creating music, I'm going to inspire people. How can I put that together in a live setting so I can inspire people and entertain?
Dude, great. These are great questions, man, because I love sharing this, because this has been, it hasn't just been like a light bulb moment. There's been multiple light bulb moments that have turned into something over time. I remember, I think it was probably, oh man, like 10, 12 years ago. And I was playing a gig back in my hometown. And it was an amazing gig, 4 hours of, and I'd started off like, and it just a full range from really light piano music for the oldies that were sticking around, and then it starts getting, all right, a bit of pop rock type stuff, and then it starts getting a bit of more dance and techno and drum and bass, and then by the end of it, it's just this weird stuff that everyone is just absolutely loving, and everyone's having a good time, partying, me included. And I distinctly remember getting to the end of that gig, and it was an awesome gig. But I remember getting to the end of it going, this probably isn't the place where somebody's going to come up afterwards and say, like, dude, those lyrics in that second verse, like they really touched me, man. And I'm gonna go home and write in my gratitude journal, and like I'm gonna change my life. Like it's just not gonna happen. It wasn't the environment for what I was wanting to create, which was to create and make a difference with the music that I had written. And so I knew I didn't know what it was, but I knew it wasn't that. And so it's over time, I guess, been partly a process of elimination, but also a process of creation, of uncovering what I could do. Not what am I going to do, but what could I do? And so over time, it's been, well, I've known that I've wanted to utilize music, but then I didn't. There was almost a missing link of the education piece, where I didn't have the language about how to inspire people to not only just maybe a bit of inspiration, but to genuinely know how to change, and be able to actually create the change in their lives, in their companies. And it wasn't until there was a moment in 2010 that led me to then embark on a coaching career. And I remember the first couple of hours of the first weekend of that training, I gone, that's it. Yeah, I knew that was the missing link. Now I had no idea still what I was going to be doing, but I knew that was the missing link, to the point of, like, I resigned from the job that I was in at the time at the first break. Called up and said, "Hey, I'm done. I'll give my notice, but that's it." I just knew that this was the direction that I was going in. Now it would take a huge amount of blood, sweat, and tears to get to where I am, but that was the first, I guess, one of the first steps. Then as time went on, the grand piano on stage had been this elusive dream of mine for a period of time. I knew that I wanted to use the piano somehow, and I knew I wanted to educate somehow. And I was trying and this is over years, trying to piece it together. And I would move towards it, going, yes, I can, to then move away from it. No, I can't. And then it was this up and down and going around and trying to figure out a way. And I remember there was an engagement that I got booked for in Australia, a speaking engagement. And it was my first speaking engagement with a grand piano on stage.
Wow.
And I remember it was about a week or 2 weeks before the engagement, and they said, "We're canceling the conference." And I'm going, oh, it's like the entire dream was like ripped from beneath me.
Oh,
and
man.
It was another couple of years then until I ended up selling everything that I owned in late 2016 and traveling the world. And I went and stayed in these places with, had grand pianos in them, and it was amazing. And I still remember when I was in Argentina, and so you'll see there's multiple moments here, right? There's multiple moments. I was in Argentina, and I'd just come out of the Colombian rainforest where I'd been filming there, and filming with a drone of rainforests and waterfalls and beaches. And then I was creating the soundtrack for it on a grand piano in this apartment in Argentina. And as I was creating there, the first week, I found that each country that I was going to on this journey around the world, I would question my existence. And it wasn't in a bad way, but it was like, what's next? And what's that next level? And what am I going to do? What is my, is my purpose still this? And what's the next phase of that? And I'd gotten more and more clarity about it. Each time, usually within that first week, there was creativity flowing, but there was also a certain level of uncertainty going on as well. And it was a moment of, I still remember just lying on my bed for the day going, I don't feel like doing anything today. And I gave myself the space though. And I think that's a really important point to make. I gave myself the space to simply feel how I was feeling at the time. And then this question popped into my mind, and it has been one of the most remarkable questions that I have ever asked myself. It was, if I died today, if this all ended today, what's the one thing that I've regretted not doing?
Oof.
What a question. What a question.
Yeah.
Because I'd been given and training in before a question of, imagine yourself at the end of your life. You're sitting on a rocking chair at 80 years of age. And what's your life been about to make it worthwhile? And I think that's a great question to ask as well. But if you're young, you got a long time to make it happen, which can lead to complacency. But if you're gone today, you got nothing else that you can do. What have you regretted not doing? And immediately, the first thing that came to my head, grand piano on stage while delivering a talk. And so
Yes.
I started putting things in place to actually make that happen. Or no, that enough is enough. This has been long enough time for you to have not made this happen. Make it happen. Yeah. Within 3 months, I was on stage in Burlington in Canada, which is near Toronto, in front of, I think it was like $100,000 grand piano.
Hmm.
And yeah, just absolutely, big backdrop of all the footage that I captured in Colombia, showcasing that, giving a talk on impact, and just absolutely incredible. And it was there of making that happen that then it started to build into where it is now, where I've given talks in multiple countries, and yeah, a lot booked in. So yeah, it's really exciting, man.
Now that's the story. I think it's great because I've seen, just hearing you, I see the passion in your face whenever you talk about music, and also about the idea of having a meaningful life and a purpose, and combining your creativity with your purpose and impacting people, and positively. And that's such a admirable, goal in life, is to actually take your experience and your creativity and your passion and to inspire people to better themselves as well. And so also I wanted to know, what is kind of your process then when you are creating? Because it seems like you love the idea of creating. How do you get into your flow state? How do you get into I would guess the ikigai, or when you feel
Yep.
like you're in it and ready to create?
Yeah, I've actually been testing out recently, which is having amazing results. So far this year, I've been here for a month. I'm in currently doing this. I'm in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm in this 2-story, 3-bedroom house on an acre property, and I've got views of the mountains right in front of me, and there's deer that walk past in the yard, in the backyard. It's an amazing place. And the day after I got here, I had a Steinway grand piano put into the middle of the living room, for me
Yes.
to create music on. And for me, it is creating the space first and foremost, and that's a physical space, but it's also a psychological space. And the thing that I've been testing out over the past month, especially, I'd done these previously, but doing these more regularly, is what I call technology and time free days. So tech and time free days.
Mm,
And this is where I'm completely free of technology for the entire day, but I'm also free of time for the entire day. I have
love that.
no idea what the time is. I turn the clocks off, they're all gone. And just for the entire day, I'm just doing whatever I feel like doing. And it just
Love
happens
that.
to be that I've written more music within this space of time than I ever have in terms of a space of time. Almost, every time that I've done this, I've written an amazing new song that I absolutely love, and I've sent across to my producer. He goes, "Dude, you're on fire!" Right? I'm like, "Oh, this is really, really cool." Because what it is, it's for something to be created. My view is that for something to be created, there needs to be space for it to be created into.
Hmm.
And if you're not creating a physical space or a psychological space that is conducive to creativity,
Hmm.
then what are you going to create? If it's all clouded, then I don't know, maybe there's other people that have different creative processes, but for me, having that space first and foremost is vital. And so for me, yes, an inspiring space is really great. This is why, like, I love hiking as well, because going out
Hmm.
hiking, there's just ideas that seem to flow for me. That's
Hmm.
usually the case with a lot of people. It's getting out in nature. It's going somewhere where you're not having to feel stuck. Yeah,
Hmm.
because creativity is expansive. Creativity is into the unknown, and you've got to have a way of being in a curious enough space to open up to that unknown. And so that's what I'd say first and foremost, the space. I say as well, another big part of it is getting out of my own way. And so if I've got
Mm.
any beliefs, or if I try to write a piece of music, I suck at it, man. Like, I'm really bad. But if I allow the music to be written through me, magic happens. It really
Mm.
does. It's just this beautiful I don't know if it's like a co-creation with the universe or whatever it is, but it's this, or co-creation with creativity, or if, from a scientific point of view, if it's simply me creating with my brain. I don't know exactly the answer to that. What I know
Hmm.
is that it works. Yeah. And when I get out of my own way, which is any limiting beliefs about, oh, am I really going to be able to write a new piece of music? Is anything going to be better than what I've already done so far? Am I really cut out for this anymore? Am I, I'm not feeling that creative. Like the moment that I get out of my own way there, that seems to be where the magic can occur. And so that's a creation of space as well, right? But it's a psychological space. From there, when it depends on whether it's music or whether it's business related. If it's music related, usually I start with some form of melody, and I'm just playing on the piano, and I'm just playing whatever notes until a point where something hits, and I go, oh, that's nice, and then I play that, and then I'm usually just saying. Sometimes they're words, but sometimes they're not even words, right? Because I'm simply allowing myself to be curious enough to play in the unknown, which is curious enough to if somebody else listened to it would be to sound silly, right? And this is the beautiful thing about creativity. You've got to be okay. You've got to be vulnerable enough to go into the unknown, because if you're not, you're closing off from everything that you don't know, which is exactly where creativity lives. You're closing off to everything that you currently know, which is in the exact opposite direction to where creativity you can go towards. And so that's how I usually start. In saying that, I was in the bath. I was having a bath the other 2 weeks ago, and I wrote a poem this is the first time I have ever done it this way, where I actually wrote a poem without any music whatsoever. I was in the bath, and it was just near the end of it. I'm going, oh, and I had a pad and paper next to me, a pad and pen next to me. That's what I was trying to get for, and I just started writing, and it just came out, and it was really like amazing. And I went down afterwards, went down to the piano, and then thought, oh well, I'll see if I can put a piece of music to it. Put a piece of music to it, and it worked amazingly as well. So I'm more and more curious about and okay with where it actually happens, but having the tools and the ability to be able to capitalize on it when it occurs, I think is really important, because if I didn't have the pad and pen next to me in the bath, wouldn't have been there. If I didn't have a piano next to me, wherever I am, not going to happen. Yeah, I'm going to miss out on the potential opportunities for creativity to flow through me. And so that tends to be there. And then the other component to it, and this is when there's really a number of key steps that I take clients through when it comes to business creativity.
Yeah.
And it really is starting with and being open first and foremost, an outcome that I'm looking to achieve. And in this case, it's a piece of music. But for other people, it might be, well, I want to increase sales, or I want to decrease costs. I want to do this. I want to find ways to be more adventurous, right? Whatever the thing is, you start with clarity about what it is that you want to experience, the outcome that you're wanting to have. And this is where I think creativity can be even more beneficial than when we're a child. Because what I get clients to do, and what I do for myself as well, is I'm strategically guiding my curiosity. And this I found to be amazing, because when I know what I want, now I can ask a question, and this is where a quality question can then guide my curiosity towards the answer. Because curiosity on its own can be stupid. It's like, like a kid putting something in its mouth, or a kid injuring itself. And it's like, why'd you do that? It's like, yeah, well, of course that was going to happen, but they didn't have any reference points for it yet. Yeah. Yes. But for us, if we know what we want to create, then putting ourselves into a range in which we want to go into. So let's say you wanted to increase sales. Well, then the question could be, well, what are all the ways that we could make that happen? Not what are we going to do, or what are we going to do to make it happen? What could we do? Yeah. Curious tonality and curious language is what's really vital there, because that's what opens you up. And I see curiosity as the bridge between where you are and where you're wanting to be. And it's the first major step to creativity. If you're not curious, how can you possibly expect for creativity to flow through you? It's just not going to happen. And so by having this curious tonality and curious language, but utilizing the specific language that will guide your curiosity towards the outcome, I found that I could be much more effective while still being in a creative space. And so once I've got clarity about what could I do, now I can make a decision on what will I do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it goes from curiosity to commitment. Curiosity, there's a space, you're opening up to it. Commitment, you're closing down, you're committing to something, because creative ideas on their own are worthless. It's only through the implementation of creative ideas that something actually occurs and impact can be made. Right? And so once we've got commitment there, now the fun begins, because now it's right. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This is who's responsible for making it happen. This is when I'm going to get it done by. And this is it's get down to the details. It's what takes a creative idea into the detail of what actually needs to be done, and then being disciplined enough to hold yourself accountable to executing on that. If I didn't stay at the piano long enough to go, well, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this. All right, it's that. Now, let's go. Yeah, I've got the melody now. Now, how's it going to go? Right, these are the lyrics. Okay, here's the first verse. Here's the chorus. There's a bridge in here somewhere. There's this, right? To the point where it's done. But then it becomes, right, how am I going to release that to the world, right? How are we going to record it? What instruments are going to be there? How does that sound? When's it going to be done by? Who's responsible for doing that? In terms of the creative process, those pieces have got to be taken care of as well. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a bunch of ideas without any action.
Yes. Wow, Cameron, I can go off to so many different conversational tangents right now because you're inspiring me. You've actually activated me because I have talked to a lot of creative people. And by the way, I want to acknowledge you for your passion and also your commitment to be a creative person and being proud of it, because a lot of creative people and artists aren't that passionate or proud of being creative. They like to actually hinder their creative passions because they've been told in society that it's not something that's viable as a career or a lifestyle. And I love seeing that in you, because I feel that as an artist and as a creative, that's that passion that's going to create the ideas that we want, that's going to impact the world a positive way. And with everything that you said, I love the fact that you were saying that you need to be in a creative, safe space. You had to create the physical space, and then you had to create the mindset, the psychological space to make sure that you are safe and it's okay to be vulnerable. And the idea of being vulnerable is so important for creativity. The idea of taking risks, having the courage, being able to be okay to look stupid, to have ugly paintings, to have crappy work. You're going to be okay with just creating something. And it's the process of creativity and the idea of just opening up that curiosity, like you said. But also, once you open up that curiosity, it's actually taking the action. So you open up the curiosity. For me, it's like I'm filming out there with my camera. I don't have a shot list. I'm just out in nature filming. And I don't care about what the shots I'm taking, but I'm filming. But all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I realize there I have a bird, and I have nature. I have animals. I think I'm going to make a really cool nature mini documentary. And from there, it's just going full force towards that goal, and having the results also at the end of it is going to help as well. So that's just amazing advice for people as a creative, as an artist, also in business. So, I mean, thank you for that. And also just letting everyone here who's listening and watching know that process. And gosh, I guess I could just go off to any other subject matter, but it's important to really say to people the importance of creativity in everyday life as a business person, as a regular, normal person in life, and also as a creative. And so how have you been able to actually talk to people in business to say to them, it's important to be creative. It's okay to be creative, and it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to actually come out with ideas that may not sound like that smash unicorn hit, but at least you said it. Like, how do you convince business people the importance of creativity?
Yeah, it depends on which type of business person that I'm speaking to as to whether creativity may be the word that is the leading force, or innovation could be the leading force, or
Nice.
adaptability could be the leading force, because all of them are the same at the end of the day. Yes, there's certain different components to them, but at the end of the day, it is I want a certain outcome. I'm here right now. And then what are some of the things that I need to be doing differently in order to get a different outcome? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And creativity simply becomes a tool, a mechanism for being as adaptable to change as you possibly can, to being an
Nice.
innovative company. And so that's the way that I usually have in terms of take on it, because it's not, as you mentioned, it's not just for creative people, or people in creative industries. The world is changing faster than ever, and we need creative input and strategy and ways of overcoming the challenges that we're being exposed to that we haven't thought of yet. Because if we had thought of them, we would have already solved the challenge. And so we need to be coming up with new ways of solving the challenges that we're being exposed to. That's how it tends to go there. And I think as well, when it comes to commercial viability of it as well, I think that comes into what we were talking about before, where people listening, you've got to be thinking about, when it comes to your own creativity, are you creating purely for the purpose of creating, or are you creating for the purpose of profit? And
yes.
Because they are two totally different things. And there's similarities there, absolutely, but one has a different conversation attached to it. If you look at while I live and I love living a very creative life, I've positioned it in a way where the creativity is a point of difference. And in addition to that, the 5 music videos, for example, last year that we did, there's one about unlocking creative potential. There's one about taking responsibility. There's one about adapting to change. There's one about overcoming adversity. There's one about living a deeper life. They just happen to be, as in very strategically happen to be, the talks that I deliver.
Yes.
And so I can then utilize what I create in the talks that I get paid for, and get paid to go around the world for. And so I'm very strategic in that. Yes, I am creating in the way that I really want to create, but I could have chosen many other songs to be able to put music videos to. I specifically chose those because of the talks that I have been giving and have got coming up. And so that, from a commercial point of view, the commercial point of view as well, when it comes to the living around the world and being in places with grand pianos. Yes, it allows me to be more creative, but again, it's a point of difference, because for the coaching clients that I have, it's all about legacy, and it's all about living an extraordinary life. It's all about stepping up to a new level of leadership capability and a new level of excellence. Now, the things that I'm doing are showing, rather than just telling, but they're actually showing and being a living and breathing example of those things. I'm leading a team. I'm challenging what's possible. I'm stepping up to my own next level of excellence. I'm not only living in alignment in the business context of what I want to experience, but also personally, health-wise, friendships, relationships, community, these different areas. So it's me being a living and breathing example of that. It's me living a life that I want, but it just so happens, again, to be a very commercial decision that I have strategically done that way. It's very, very strategically and designed that way. Whereas if it wasn't from a commercial viability point of view, I just do whatever I want. Yeah. So whoever, those of you listening in, you've got to be thinking about, is this what the reason why I'm listening in, and the reason why I want to improve on my own creativity? Do I want to make it into something that is commercially viable? And if so, how could I potentially blend my creativity into some other areas of my life that would allow me to get paid for it? Because there are certain industries that it's really challenging to make money in. Yeah. I personally looked at the music industry, and it may change over time, but I personally looked at the music industry and gone, man, I wouldn't call myself lazy, because I'm a hard worker, but there's certain things I just don't want to do. I don't want to set up my own gear. I don't want to take down my own gear. I don't want to be sitting there at the end of the night and late at night, when I'm a very morning person. I'm usually up at 4:30 to 5:30 a.m. I'm in bed really early at night. I don't want to be out late. I don't want to be touring around. I don't want to be touring a grueling schedule. I looked and gone, well, that's how most in that industry are actually making money, is they're touring. That's where a lot of the revenue comes from today. Yes, it can come from publishing in other areas as well, but a huge portion, you see a lot of artists are having to go through grueling travel schedules. That for me, I just don't see that as fun. Yeah, for me
Mm-hmm,
personally.
mm-hmm.
So again, I looked and went, how can I make it work where I could blend in the components, which would allow me to make a greater impact, but would also allow me to get paid very well for what I do, even though I am actually doing the things that other people don't actually get paid very well for. Yeah. So again,
Yep.
very, very strategic in that way. So I think we went off tangent in terms of that, but
Oh,
I
it's
wanted to
okay.
mention that in terms
Yeah.
of the yeah, from a talking with businesses, I think I covered that as well. But
Yeah, you
yeah,
did.
it really is understanding what language needs to be utilized
Mm-hmm.
in order to influence somebody's decision making process.
That's so true.
Because sometimes again it's like, oh yeah, you need to be out and be creative, and you need to get out with a piece of paper and paint stuff. It's like, no, you need to go on a retreat, and
Mm.
you need to be strategic with this, and you need to be able to adapt to change, otherwise you're going out of business. Do you want that? No, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it depends on what language you're needing to utilize depending on your market.
Love that. And it's also comes down to, like you said before, clarity. Like,
Mm.
what do you want? And I think the people out there who do have, let's say, a creative talent or passion, and they're in a career or a 9 to 5 job, or a job where they're not fulfilled, and they have this fantasy of our lives of being able to travel the world and get paid for our creativity. Although there is this, like you said, separation between making art for yourself and making art for commerce or for
Mm.
business, because you do have to, when it's for commerce, you have to make your fans happy, you have to make your clients happy. It applies to me with video. I can either go out and create my short films and music videos and nature documentaries and martial arts videos that I'm really passionate about, or I can go and do wedding videos and branded content and other videos for companies that will make me money, yet it won't give me the fulfillment that I'm looking for. So it's marrying those two. And I'm lucky enough to have done that with a few of my projects. And it is a beautiful combination of marrying your purpose actually with your passion and also with commerce, because I think that trifecta, you're able to create with happiness, with joy, with a purpose, at the same time get compensated for your work. Because
I agree.
yeah.
It's the I one of the things that I've gotten really, really clear on, two parts that I've gotten really, really clear on, because I think you're spot on from a clarity point of view, is first up, I got very clear a number of years ago on what is it that I want to experience in my life. Not the things, but how I'm feeling. I wanted
Mm,
to, and what I'm being exposed to. It was about, all right, I want to be curious. It was about curiosity and creativity and courage, and
mm,
about adventure and about fun and about happiness and about impact. And then it became, again, and you'll notice the creative process here, what I mentioned before. Okay, now that I know what I want, what could I do that would allow me to make that happen? Yeah.
mm.
And there was all these different ideas as to what it might be. And that came, I remember, and this is great. Back in July 2016, I knew I wanted to continue traveling. I hadn't sold everything that I owned yet, but I knew I got in the travel bug. Yeah, I'd
Mhm.
only just really gone overseas for the first time a reason shortly before that. But I knew that I knew I had to change the business model slightly. I knew I wanted to continue traveling. I knew I wanted to continue making an impact with the work that I was doing. I knew I wanted to continue making music. And so it was all of the pieces that I mentioned before, plus those components. And I remember being in Brisbane in Australia and thinking to myself, I wonder if there's like a keyboard that I could roll up in my suitcase and have it in there and then be able to play on. And there is, like, there's a device that you can do, but really crappy quality. And I learned on an actual piano how to play. And so my
Yeah.
expression when I'm even a half decent keyboard, if it hasn't got full hammer weighted keys,
Mm.
I just I don't feel it. I don't get into the groove that I need to be able to express and myself fully. And so that wasn't an option. But here's the thing: we're in the stage of what could I do? Yeah. Now the beautiful thing that I've found is that curiosity feeds on itself.
Mm.
And soon after, there was, well, I wonder if there's like places around the world that I could stay in that have grand pianos in them already. And I did a search, and I have found hundreds of places all over the world that you
Wow.
can lease, that you can rent out and stay and live in and create. Yeah. And it was bingo for me. I was like, oh, that's epic. Yeah. And so clarity about what I wanted to experience led to the decisions that I made that allowed me to experience even more of that. And I continue to ask myself those questions. How could I experience even more than that, more of that? What else could I do that would allow me to be in even more alignment with my purpose and the values and the emotions that I'm wanting to experience on a consistent basis? And so that of having clarity there, I think as well, clarity about how much do you want to make? You know, when you talk about from a financial point of view, everyone talks about, I want millions of dollars or billions of dollars and this and that. And it's like, well, work out how much you actually want or how much you need to be able to put a plan in place to be able to be financially well off still, because I love money and it allows me to do awesome stuff. It's like I'm in a 2-story, 3-bedroom house in an amazing city in the US and a Steinway grand piano. Like it costs money, right?
Yep.
And a decent amount of money, and then all locations all over the world. And so I've gotten very clear on how much I want to make that allows me to be very profitable, that allows me to invest in areas outside of the business, that also allows me to invest in music videos each year, allows me to have a team of people. So there is a decent amount of costs involved in that. And I've got to make that amount plus to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to live. Yeah, to be able to travel the world full time, to be able to live in the way that I live, to be able to go back to Australia for 1 or 2 months every year, to be able to live in 5 to 10 countries every year like I do, to be able to create the music videos like I want to do. But I've got clarity about what that looks like for me and remove any of the other noise because you are you do you. Yeah. Know what you're wanting to experience and then make sure your plan is in place that is aligned to you, that outcome coming to fruition. That's what fulfillment is.
Yes. Wow, Cameron. I mean, it's just hearing you and your passion about that. I mean, I'm sure you're affecting so many people around the world because you're teaching creativity, but also money management and mindset, and actually career management and goal setting and business, innovation and adaptability. And I mean, going back to the idea of having to talk to a business person about creativity, let's flip that. How do you talk to creatives who have this limiting belief that money is going to hinder them from being fully creative? The whole idea of the starving artist. There are, artists and money. The idea of money and artistry has always been in, I would say, dueling and conflicting, I would say, thought patterns in people's minds when they're creative and they're artists, because people think that they're two different sides of the spectrum. But what are your thoughts on that? And how would you talk to an artist to help them get to that level where they are making the money that they want? They don't think of money as a way of, limiting their creativity, and it gives them a life they've always wanted with the freedom to actually create.
Yeah, it's a great question. And it'll depend on each person because every person will have different limiting beliefs about why that's the case. Some might have the belief about money's bad, for example, or money's evil, or money is greed, or something like that. A lot of people have scarcity beliefs about money versus simply seeing it as an exchange of value, and so removing any limits first and foremost about what money is, I think is a major part of that. The other part I see, and this is the way that I've chosen to do it, is find a way that you can actually make the money. And it might sound simple, but a lot of people are doing it in a way that is maybe the way that it had been done before. For example, let's say people who are authors. Yeah, most authors don't make money anymore. Yeah, it's a marketing tool. Right. And yes, you might at an extreme, if you get absolutely in that top point something percent, then you make it and you get, so let's say a book advance or some kind of book deal. But most are not. And so looking at different ways, even if you've got some of the most published authors on the non-fiction side, what do? They speak. They've usually got some kind of program that they put people through. Even the most successful people in that space, they have spin-offs because the book isn't necessarily making the money. Yeah. You look at the music industry. How many people are buying music now? Barely anybody. Yes, streams are taking care of a certain amount, but you got to get a lot of streams, even just to break even.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, if you're trying to make money from something that doesn't make money, it sounds logical when you say it like that.
Right.
But that's you've got to look at. I mean, you're creative people. Find ways that are commercially viable to capitalize on your works of art. Because for me personally, and again, this is simply my view of it, if I was simply, all right, I'm going to make it as a musician only, and I'm going to play the gigs, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, then I'd be struggling. Because I haven't created any kind of point of difference. Maybe I would have by now. I don't know. But I think I would have gotten sick of it and given up anyway. Because it's something that I just wasn't committed to doing. For others, if you are committed to doing that, you've got to find a way to either, find somewhere else that you're able to channel, and generate the income from. There's different verticals within my company, for example, speaking and coaching, and coaching very successful people that to achieve that next level. And so I get paid well for that. Yeah. I've done that strategically again. I could have easily gone into an area of coaching, but it doesn't get paid as well. That's not part of that. That's not the outcome that I'm shooting for. The outcome for me is that I have a vehicle set up that allows me to dedicate even more time to some area that I'm not necessarily getting paid for. And so at the end of the day, be strategic in how you're going to get there, rather than just hope and hope and hope and think that, if my artwork is good enough, it'll eventually get discovered. Put a strategy in place, man. Find a way to make it happen, rather than hoping that it's going to happen. Put steps in place that gives you the best opportunity or best chance of success with it. Because otherwise, to me, hope's just a pretty mediocre strategy, honestly.
Wow, that's a great way to put it, because a lot of artists out there wish that they can just put out a piece of art that they're passionate about and not do anything about it marketing wise, and hoping that they get that one hit, whether it's millions of streams or the viral video. You know what, Cameron, thank you so much for this talk. I swear I can go a couple hours talking to you. That's why, next time you're in Los Angeles or around the world, can you post it on your schedule? Because I do travel as well. I'm going to be in Bali next month, and I'm going to be later on this month, and I'll be in Hawaii in 2 months, and then Europe in the summer. So if you're going to be,
dude, I'll be in Europe. You check out my and those tuning in as well. So CameronBrown.co/tour. And that has not only the locations that I'm giving talks at, which are a lot of those are private talks, but it also has the locations that I'm going to do things in. So in terms of locations, so yeah, I'll be in Europe for about 3 to 6 months this year.
That's beautiful. Well, I just want to say thank you, Cameron, for getting on the phone call, the Skype, the podcast with us, and really just blessing us with all this information, knowledge, advice, and just really a great story. Going from, a creative person that went through 2 years of not touching the piano, that really felt that, I would say, the depression of not being creative, and then taking that and then applying it into a business that's inspiring people and helping people business-wise and creativity-wise. And it's all into one amazing company. So thank you for that. And I want to acknowledge you for your amazing work for the world, man. And for all creatives out there. But before we go, let people know where to find you. I know you just said your website /tour, but where else can they find you, and how can we support?
Yeah, absolutely. So first up, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And great questions. It's been just a great conversation. Love when we can just sit and just let it flow, right? That's what creativity is all about. And so, CameronBrown.co is the website. and the social handles are Cameron Brown Real, Real. And so they're on things like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, areas like that. So yeah, they're the two main pieces, and would love to hear from some of you guys.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you, mate. I appreciate you. And I'm going to talk to you over phone and LinkedIn because it was really good just catching up with you, and I really vibe out with you a lot. So thank you. Safe travels. And hopefully today you're going to be creating a masterpiece, and I know you will.
Love it, man. Thanks for having me, and speak soon. Cheers.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Creative Haven podcast. And if you dig it and like what you heard today, please give us a nice review and rating and share it with one of your friends that you think needs some creative inspiration. You can always find more content and resources at thecreativehaven.com, and hit me up on Instagram at Mitchel Dumlao. And if you want to reach out, collab, or ask any questions, you have my permission to slide into my DMs. So keep positive, continue to learn and hone your craft, and create all day. Salamat.